At a luxurious party filled with billionaires and flashing cameras, one woman cried alone in the corner. The maid no one noticed. But when the millionaire's daughter took the mic, pointed at her powerful father, and exposed the secret they'd hidden for 18 years, the entire room froze. What she said next changed everything. Watch till the end. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that reveal the truth. Behind the silence, the grand chandelier shimmered above the marble-floored banquet hall of the Hawthorne estate, where laughter echoed and champagne glasses clinked. Every corner of the room buzzed with chatter, politicians, CEOs, and celebrities mingling effortlessly in designer gowns and crisp tuxedos. But in the far left corner, nearly hidden behind a towering floral arrangement, someone was trying not to be seen. A woman in a plain uniform, head bowed, shoulders trembling. She was crying, quietly, painfully young, and no one noticed. Except one. Sophie Hawthorne, 18, the only daughter of real estate mogul Gregory Hawthorne, stood frozen in her silver heels. She had just stepped down from the stage after giving a forced birthday speech, one carefully rehearsed, full of family pride and gratitude. But now that mask was slipping. Her eyes had caught something no one else cared to look at. The maid, Rosa, was curled up near the kitchen door, sobbing into her hands. Sophie had seen that woman every day since she was 10 years old. Rosa had tied her shoelaces for school, packed her lunchboxes, nursed her when she was sick. But Sophie had never seen her cry. Her heart began to pound. She made her way through the glittering crowd, ignoring the whispers from the other socialites. "Where is she going?" Someone muttered. "Is that the maid crying?" Another asked, sounding more annoyed than concerned. But Sophie didn't stop. "Rosa," she said softly. The older woman jerked back like a startled bird. "I'm sorry, Miss Sophie. I didn't mean to. I'll go. I just needed a moment." "You're crying," Sophie said gently, kneeling beside her. "What happened?" Rosa wiped her eyes furiously, trying to stand. "It's nothing. Please, your father doesn't like me speaking out of turn." "My father's not here," Sophie said, her voice suddenly firmer. "Tell me what happened." Rosa hesitated, torn. For years, she had kept secrets locked behind her lips, swallowing her pain in exchange for a paycheck. But tonight, something had broken inside her. Maybe it was the weight of time. Maybe it was the cruel words whispered by Mrs. Hawthorne earlier that evening. Or maybe it was the photograph she found tucked into the drawer of Sophie's old room while cleaning. She pulled it from her apron pocket with shaking fingers. It was a worn, faded picture of a baby and no more than a few months old, cradled in the arms of a young woman whose eyes looked hauntingly familiar. Sophie stared at the photo, confused. "Who is this?" "That's you," Rosa whispered. "And the woman holding you?" "That's not Mrs. Hawthorne." The words hit Sophie like a slap. "What are you saying?" "I raised you because I had to," Rosa said, voice trembling. "Not just because I was the maid, but because you were never supposed to be hers." The room spun. Somewhere across the hall, someone made a toast. The crowd laughed, but Sophie couldn't hear it. She felt like the air had been knocked out of her chest. "You're lying," she whispered. Rosa shook her head, tears slipping freely now. "I wish I was." Sophie stared at the photograph again, then looked at Rosa, really looked at her. The same brown eyes, the same curve in the smile. She felt the floor shift beneath her feet. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I can't keep pretending," Rosa said. "Not after what she did. Not after how she treated you and me." Sophie's voice cracked. "What did she do?" But Rosa couldn't speak anymore. Her sobs returned, quiet but shaking her whole frame. Sophie gripped the photo, her knuckles white. That was when she knew the truth had been buried too long. Sophie sat on the floor beside Rosa, the banquet around them forgotten. The distant noise of music and laughter felt unreal now, like echoes from someone else's life. She looked again at the photograph, her infant self wrapped in a knitted blanket, smiling in the arms of a woman with warm eyes and soft, tired features. Those eyes weren't her mother's, at least not the woman who had raised her inside these glass walls. "I don't understand," Sophie murmured. "If I wasn't hers, then who am I? Who are you?" Rosa took a deep, trembling breath. "I was young, barely 20. Your father, Gregory, he wasn't the man people think he is. I was working at one of his smaller properties, cleaning rooms, minding my business. One night he came back drunk, furious about a deal that fell through. I tried to leave, but he..." She didn't finish the sentence. Her voice broke and her hands trembled as she clutched the edge of her apron. Sophie's lips parted, but no words came. Her stomach twisted with a sickness she'd never known. You mean he? Rosa nodded slowly, not meeting her eyes. You were born 7 months later. He paid off the hospital, threatened anyone who asked questions. But the worst part was what happened after. He told me I could stay in the mansion, that I'd be allowed to raise you in secret, only if I gave up any right to call you mine. Sophie clutched the photograph tightly. My whole life, I called someone else Mom, a woman who never really hugged me, who barely looked at me. And you were just Rosa the maid, the one who held me when I cried and sang to me at night when I had nightmares. You were my daughter, Rosa whispered, but I was never allowed to say it. Sophie blinked hard, tears threatening to fall. Her chest ached with anger, confusion, and an overwhelming sense of betrayal. Every warm memory she had, every birthday cake baked in the back kitchen, every scraped knee she ran to Rosa for had been a secret love. A mother-daughter bond lived in silence. She stood up slowly, her voice shaking. Does anyone else know? Your mother knew. Or rather, Mrs. Hawthorne, she always suspected. That's why she hated me. Why she sent me to clean the servant quarters when you turned 12. She wanted to keep me away. And tonight, Rosa wiped her eyes again. Tonight she told me you'd be leaving for college next week, that my job would end, that I'd serve my purpose. Sophie's face hardened. She looked across the room toward the stage, where her parents were laughing with politicians and CEOs. Her father, proud and smug in his tailored suit. Her mother, beaming for the cameras. A perfect lie wrapped in wealth and power. They lied to me for 18 years, she said, her voice low. They stole my identity. My mother. Then she turned back to Rosa and did something she hadn't done since she was a child. She knelt and wrapped her arms around her tightly, fiercely as though trying to reclaim every lost year. I'm not going to college next week, Sophie whispered. Not until the world knows the truth. Not until I call you what I should have called you all along. Rosa shook her head, afraid. Please, Sophie. You don't know what your father is capable of. He'll destroy you. He's already destroyed enough. Suddenly, Sophie stood. Her heels clicked loudly on the marble floor as she marched across the banquet hall. People turned. Murmurs rose. A hush fell over the room when she climbed back onto the stage, interrupting her father's speech. Gregory looked confused.
Sophie, what are you doing?
She took the mic. Her hands trembled, but her voice rang clear. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. But there's something I need to say. Something that should have been said 18 years ago. Her mother's eyes widened in panic. Gregory stepped forward, his smile faltering. Sophie turned to face the crowd. The woman you call our maid Rosa isn't just some employee. She is my mother. And she has been my mother since the day I was born. My biological mother. My protector, my heart. The room fell into stunned silence. All cameras turned. Phones lifted. Shock rippled through the elite guests like lightning. My father isn't the man you think he is. Behind all this wealth is a monster who silenced a young woman and stole her child. Who let me grow up in a lie. I won't let this continue. Gasps erupted. The Hawthorne stood frozen. Sophie turned to look at Rosa, still standing in the corner, tears streaming down her face. The truth had finally been spoken, and now the world would see everything for what it truly was. A daughter had remembered her real mother, and nothing would ever be the same again.